Before diving into today's episode, I just want to let you know that I'm a proud Glove Glue goalkeeper. They have some of the best goalkeeper gloves in the business. They also have different products to make your gloves perform even better, like the grip sprays. They have the Aqua Grip for rainy weather. They have the Mega Grip for even more worn out gloves to make them last longer and keep them grippy. And they do also have the Glove Glue Original, which is made for more newer gloves. After using all the grippy stuff, you have to use the glove care products, like this one, for instance, the Glove Wash and Prepare, to take care of your glove and make them last longer. You can go to gloveglue.com/GOA for 10% off your next purchase, or you can go to my free school community and get 20% off your next purchase. Link is in my channel, in my Instagram bio, and in my TikTok bio. Now, let's dive into today's episode. In my living room.
Okay, you're gonna be...
Kids and stuff are away.
Yeah?
Yeah, so it's good. He has ice hockey practice.
Of course, Norway, ice hockey.
Yeah, you know, it's hockey town here as well, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
he's
You're in Salzburg? You live in Salzburg?
Yeah, I live in Salzburg. I don't know if you've been there, but I live at Scherberg, like the golf course.
I can't remember, because it's crazy we are hooking up right now, because almost to this day it's been 9 years I've signed for Sandefjord. I probably on March, it was around that period that I first came to Sandefjord. It's crazy. And when I was thinking back, I was like, 9 years, that long? Wow. I feel like it was yesterday.
It's
literally
crazy, yeah.
Crazy. But no, Salzburg, I knew well enough, but I remember going to the golf course, because we had this golf thing with the partners every year, and I was with Andreas Nordvik. We'd be in these cars and giving food to everyone because we didn't know how to play golf, and they was like, "You guys, come on, relax, it's a golf, gentleman's sport, relax, you can't go screaming and honking." And there was another French guy, Abi Belaid, who turned out to be a childhood friend that joined us for 2 months. It was insane. So I remember going to the course, but I don't remember exactly where it was located.
Okay, because you weren't here too long. You came here in March 2015. And
2015, and I left in July 2015.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it's a fantastic story. I mean, Thomas Bernstein, and it was like basically because my club had gone bankrupt in France. Yeah. And so I had been 6-7 months without a club. I had tried out. I was on the verge of signing for Ligue 1 club in Toulouse, which I was living already in the city. It was perfect outcome. Didn't work out on the last day of the winter transfer window in France. So January 31st done, so crushed. Then I go to MLS in 2015 to Colorado Rapids. I try out. I feel it's going fine. I feel like, it could happen, but not a great feeling about the club. Next thing you know, they tell me, no, we don't want you, or you can stay in practice, but we're not going to sign you. I'm like, wow. So the only market that was still open was Scandinavia and this and that. And I had no idea at the time. And my agent tells me, hey, we've been working with this club, Sandefjord. They could be looking for a goalkeeper, this, that. I said, let's go. Came, and it was instant connection. Coming from France, honestly, I had no idea Norway was that nice, that good, that everything. And Sandefjord, like, it's been 9 years, but if I'm still playing, it's thanks to that experience, 100%. It brought so much freshness to me and taught me so much, but we'll talk about it, man. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, because
I don't want to spoil it. I just need to close the door, because my kids are going to come back at some point, and it's going to be loud. Is that true?
Yeah, because
I am all yours for the next hour and 30 minutes. Yes,
it's fantastic.
Yes. My time, at 4:15 my time, I need to be gone. So 9:15 your time, I need to be out the.
It's amazing, Quentin. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it a lot.
Pleasure. It's my pleasure. I've been following what you've done, and also following you in Sandefjord, and because I've always followed the club since,
I see.
And you going, if I recall properly, you came and then left for Belgium.
Yeah.
now for USG, right?
Yeah, for USG, yeah. So
Now
it was,
yeah, yeah, it's interesting dynamics, huh?
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I think if there's, I would like to stay there for a bit longer, I think.
Yeah.
But there was this. My family they were doing okay, but had somewhat of a hard time settling into to Belgium. And my oldest, he was starting school that following summer, and I moved back that winter to Salzburg.
Okay.
So it was like like the total of the situation just made the move back to Norway make sense.
How I
But
understand, that's the only reason why I left Salzburg is the family situation. Because we had been in a waiting position for 9 months now. I came to Salzburg without my family, and they came to visit a couple of times, and they really liked it. But when came the moment where I needed to make a decision, whereas it was sign a 2.5 year deal in Salzburg or sign a 2 year deal in France, where we had our a little bit our comfort zone, and understanding that we had been struggling for 9 months, not knowing where you're going to be and knowing that you're going to need to move, but where, and it just made more sense. But I literally called Thomas crying and said,
yeah,
"Man, it was a crazy story, because it was literally, they gave me their word that they would free me if I wanted to leave, but they
yeah,
also offered it a 2.5 year deal, and I was starting for them at the time. I had won the starting position, and we were doing, it was perfect connection. It was like I was myself. The club had the values that I liked. I saw a different perspective and different culture that was fantastic to me, but it was just not the right family move. But by and large, I feel so close, and I feel I've spent so much more time in Salzburg than I actually did, because
yeah. I see.
I'm more in touch with people in Salzburg than I am in a couple clubs that I've played for in France.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, because I've been also like somewhat close to Thomas because he's brought me twice to Salzburg, both when I came from another club here in Norway and also for the time bringing me back to Salzburg. And he's actually been saying that, that you made a huge impression on the people in Salzburg, on the club, and also on Thomas for the time you've been here. So you absolutely have made a mark on the club and the city that is still here.
It's touching to hear, because for me it's the exact opposite. I carry Salzburg with me, literally. It's they gave me a second boost in my career when I was thinking it could go south and everything was going wrong in France. Well, I was actually doing extremely well on the pitch, but my club went bankrupt. So we went from being promoted to being denied promotion, and then all of the players were without a contract. And the market for goalkeepers. Every club has a goalkeeper, and I was doing well enough that everyone was interested, and I had a few opportunities and quite a bit, but I actually turned them down because of the way people came about it, about the opportunities and everything. And when Sandefjord came around and I came to try out, they were trying to see if I was fit, because I hadn't played an official game in almost 10 months, because it was preseason and then you go bankrupt. And so we hadn't started the season. And I was a machine. I was training on my own, no problem. And when I met Geir and Thomas, and everything was fluid and straightforward. And then I was in this big family. It's
Yeah,
like, in Europe or in France, every club calls themselves a family club. It's like, oh yeah, it's a very family environment. And in the end, nothing like that. It's like, then I come to Sandefjord, and I had the incredible chance to get tied with a couple Norwegians that actually told me about the culture and introduced me to the culture in depth. Andreas Nordvik in particular, and Bojan Zajic, who wasn't a Norwegian but was an adopted Norwegian, and he was
yeah,
like a Serb that really loved the country. So I was really an immersion, and I was actually okay. I came willing to hear about the culture and everything, but understanding the story of the club, that the players went door to every company to actually find funds, and then there was a group of retired people that were actually cooking for us, and that the equipment managers were guys that were at the club for years and years and years, and how they had like a salary cap, and it was like fantastic. It's like, okay, they're making it happen so that we actually enjoy the game, and it's all about the game. And then whether you won or lose, they liked that they felt you gave it your all, you know? And so it brought that thing where it's like, hey, it's for real here. It's like for the love of the game, really. And so, you know, in France, it's so competitive. And I came through the ranks of a very, very famous academy. And
Clairefontaine.
exactly. And everything was elite, elite. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm here. Far from, at the time, I had my two boys. They were 4 and 2, my wife. And I'm here for the love of the game and to actually survive in in a competitive environment that is the professional soccer world, right? And I'm here literally in a big family that has welcomed me with open arms. And I'm like, inside, I'm so hurt that I'm far from my family, but I had a family of substitution. And so that's why I was telling you it was so intense for 4 months that I gave everything that I got. And I was the best version of myself because they reflected on me. You know, it's like, this is how I want to raise my kids. And they were loving my kids because they were polite. They were saying hello. And it was just the perfect connection. And I'm sure you can relate, but sometimes things happen in life, and especially in football, karma, you know, it's like, and
Yeah.
I'm sure I was meant to play for Sandefjord at some point and meet all these people. This is why till this day, there's a Norwegian that just signed. I'm like, Hada, bra dag, you know, just like
Yeah.
spitting out all my Norwegian. But I have so many stories about Norway that when we were traveling to Tromsø, to Ålesund, everything, thanks to Andreas Nordvik, again, you know, I was really in immersion, like trying to learn, okay, this is like the northern part of Norway. Yeah, here in the winter, it's a nightmare. You barely see the sun. But also, I wasn't on my iPod or on my iPad. You know, I was like at the windows with all these fjords and this beautiful environment. And I went to Oslo. I went everywhere that I went. I was sightseeing as well as I was playing football. So I was in full immersion in that culture. And that helped me so much, man, that to this day, I follow Sandefjord results like on a daily. I follow you guys in preseason, okay, with reason, because it's. But I still remember the Norwegian that I learned. I was on the way to training. I would listen to Norwegian radio to actually understand better and, you know, get a few words. And with the way I looked, and at the time I had the man bun, I looked so Scandinavian. My family name, the looks, and everything, and people didn't, you know, they would speak in Norwegian. I would speak back the few words that I knew, and then after 2 minutes, I was a fraud, right? And so they wouldn't really understand, like Westberg looking Scandinavian and not speaking a single word of Norwegian. So I didn't really like that feeling. That's why I wanted to learn. Obviously, Norwegian is a complicated language, but yeah, I mean, to get down to the bottom of it, Salzburg still has such a big impact on my career, and Thomas, and the fact that he told me, because to get down to it, when I signed, he told me in the summer, we will assess if we're happy with you, if we're not. So it's a year contract that we sign. It's for you to kind of survive, for us to fill a need, but it'll be fluid, right? And it went so well that I won the starting job, and we were getting good results, and the chemistry with the team and the club was fantastic, right? But I had this personal situation that my wife and kids were alone and suffering, and so when the time come and a French club tour offered me a 2-year deal, I called Thomas in tears and said, man, you know, your word, you're going to need to respect it. And from my perspective, a French perspective, a French sporting director that just offered you a 2.5 year deal and you're a starter, he's not letting you go for free and like this. Send me a text that I still keep. And Gary Bakke sent me an email that I still to this day keep, saying, we know you're not leaving because you don't like us. We know you're leaving because there's maybe one greater purpose than football in life is family. And we know it's all for your family. And man, this boosted me. And this, you know, in this environment that is so competitive like football, I'm just like, man, you need great people like this, you know? And as I said, to this day, I carry this experience in Norway, Norwegian, Sandefjord, the Elite Syrian, whatever, all the Norway with me.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's crazy how like my story and your story actually meets, because if you would have stayed and signed that contract, I don't think I would have been given the chance to play for Salzburg and to, you know, take the step to the highest level as a young goalkeeper and get the experience that I had here in my first spell. So it's crazy how careers and people like sometimes can cross each other, and yeah, sometimes in football it's just a few coincidences spiced with hard work, and lots of belief, and then there's a lot of good stuff that can come from that. But what you say as well, that people over here, they, as I said, they remember you and the character you were and the values that you had. Yeah, you made a huge impact. So it's nice to hear that you have the exact same feeling, and I think people over here will be very happy to hear what you say in the conversation that we will have here today. So
For
it's
sure,
good.
for sure.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm stamped 08. You know, I'm stamped. You know, I'm tattooed.
Yeah,
You know,
stamped, tattooed.
yeah.
But how are you feeling at the moment? The regular season have just started in the MLS, right? For a month or so?
Yes. Barely. We're 3 games in. You know, I'm at this point in my career where I'm so grateful to feel as good as I feel now physically and mentally also, just because careers are just, you know, a big roller coaster, right? And as it goes, you're able to narrow it down, and you grow as a player, as an athlete, but as a human being also. And I feel I'm at that point where, you know, things are clear. You know, nothing's easy, nothing's comfortable in this area. And of course, there is frustration. There is a lot of frustration when you're not playing. But there's also a sense of purpose. And when it comes to that mental part and the purpose part and the fact that my family is healthy and actually liking life here and just benefiting from the fact that we have this crazy job that we can move around so much and expose them to so much, and in good and in bad, that really I'm at this point where I just know I'm blessed. You know, I'm just one of these lucky people that I actually love the game. You know, so coming every day and training, I mean, I start to be frustrated at my daughter because I always drop my daughter off and then go to the training ground. But I need my time there. You know, if this is where I feel the most comfortable, and the football environment, as challenging as it can be, is still the one that I feel the most comfortable in, despite being uncomfortable on a daily basis. That's the paradox, I guess.
Do you feel that with age, like if I like in my own situation, that when you were a bit younger, you were so desperate to play that everything else just went out the window? You were thinking a bit different, extremely cynical. Everything that matters was to play in the weekend. But then as you age, you get a different perspective maybe on how lucky you are to have your health, and also to be able to get paid and to have a contract and to, you know, team up with the team to fight for, you know, for a common goal. So does your approach to the game may differ? Like, don't get me wrong, you want to play, but you also want to, as a human being and as a character, maybe brush off all your experience to the team and the people that you're involved with on a day-to-day basis.
100%. And as it stands for goalkeepers, it's even more frustrating because you can go 6 months without playing. You know, you can go 2 years without playing and still training every day, have no injuries, feel perfectly good. And so the most common feeling that you could feel is frustration, or it's anger, or it's something negative. And in time, especially now for me, it's so much easier for me to tell you this, and it's a little bit hypocritical, but you see these top players that I've played with great players. Some have been world champions, whatever. And I see once they stop, how fast they are forgotten as players, that it's almost like, wow, if they forgot these guys, what would they remember about me, man? Come on, you know? We have promotion here, a little cup there, you know, it's just like, come on, you know, it's like, so in the soccer world, our ego took us places, but it can also land you in the worst of places. So at some point, it's really balancing it out. And this I've understood. But for the first 4, 5, 6, 7 years of my career, as you said, I wanted to play so bad that my week would start on the first day of training and would end at the end of the game. And if I didn't play in that game, then a whole new cycle started. So there would be either frustration of not playing, or, you know, when you play well, it's good, but when you don't play well, it's all right. So I was emotion driven. So I wasn't working for the greater purpose, for the purpose of improving. I was working to, mind you, I was extremely competitive. I was still extremely serious. I was always showing up and doing more and more and more. But my mindset was wrong because I was working towards the weekend, not towards growth. And I'm not even talking mental, because I'm talking about just purely as an athlete, as a goalkeeper. I wasn't thinking growth. Like, I wasn't working to be a better goalkeeper. I was working to start on the weekend. And if I didn't, I would be frustrated and I would be back to square one on the Monday when you start the week over. So it's almost like I threw away 2-3 years of my career by just fighting, fighting, fighting. And when came that moment where I said, hey, listen, man. And Sandefjord was really one of those moments where I was with DeAndre Kerr. DeAndre Kerr was doing well for the club. There was some attitude problems, but he was by and large doing the job, man, But there was something about his personality and everything. And I was coming right at that moment where I had been a leader for that club. We had been promoted, and it was a big challenge that I succeeded in. But I was in that position where I hadn't played for 9 months in an official game. I was extremely fit, but I wasn't match fit, right? But I was so focused on being ready the moment that I would be given that opportunity that I said, and I feel so good managing myself alone. Maybe I'm not part of the strategy now, but I will be. If I become inevitable, the coach is going to want to play me. And so I've adopted this mentality from that moment on. And guess what? The situation that I like the most is coming to a club as a backup and eventually winning over the starting job. And that's what I did throughout the rest of my career. Beforehand, an injury or so, or I had to leave to a third division club to actually establish myself and play consistent minutes and everything. But from that moment on, I had a lot of games under my belt beforehand. But as I said, it was with that fighting mentality. It was with that I don't give up, but I don't really have clear ideas. Whereas once my mindset shifted and is, listen, the competition is in the mirror. Make yourself better, develop your own identity. And as weird as that is, as it sounds, it's a fan in Sandefjord that really, turned on the light for me. He said, you know how we call you in the stands? And he had a Serbian accent. He was one of Bojan's friends, but living in Norway. And he said, you know how we call you in the stands? The devil of Tasman. I'm like, what? The devil of Tasman. Taz? He goes on. I said, why? Because we've never seen a keeper cover so much ground. You're always out your box. You always want the ball to your feet. You're always covering depth. And it's like, yeah, this is my identity. But it's funny that you make me realize that. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to focus on the devil of Tasman and not on Dwayne Kerr or whoever I was in a fight for. It's like, he understood my identity almost better than I did. So now it's like, what kind of goalkeeper do I want to be? This is what I work towards over, I want to be the starter for Sandefjord. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I want to be the starter. Yeah. No, I want to be a better version of the devil of Tasman. And this moment, I remember I remember his accent like it was yesterday, And it made me realize, work to be the best version of the devil of Tasman and not the starting goalkeeper for Sandefjord for the next year or two, because you're going to leave and people are going to forget you. Whereas yourself, your identity, you can carry it along. And it's almost like after that moment, I became not inevitable, but as soon as I had this understanding that my profile fit the club that I was playing for, it was instant connection, instant match. And thanks to that moment and to this experience and everything I had lived before, all the mistakes I had made before, then the second part of my career was all the more still complicated, but more blissful because I was working towards an identity and not towards a starting job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally get it, because I think especially from a younger age, you can be really caught up about what's happening outside of your control. Clubs bringing in other goalkeepers, competition, and you're maybe at some point blaming others for you not taking the next step or making the leap to playing. So what you're saying is to focus on yourself, develop your own your character, your way of goalkeeping, instead of focusing too much on stuff that you can't control. And then your journey will be your journey. But if you focus on working on yourself, developing yourself as an athlete, as a goalkeeper, as a human being, as a character, as a leader, then eventually good things will come, because the base is there. You just have to wait for that small break, and then it's your turn.
And it's valid for every position, but goalkeeper even more. in a goalkeeper group, you could be, I'm 183, 6 feet tall, and the other goalkeeper could be 6'4", 195. Dwayne Kerr was almost 2 meters tall,
He was
two
huge.
feet two, I think. He was huge.
Yeah.
We were two different people. We were barely playing the same position. You know what I'm saying? He was
Yeah.
in the goal. He would cover the goal, like the goal. And I said, okay, I can't compete with him in that matter. What do I do well? I prevent everything from happening before through leadership, through covering grounds, through good distribution. Because this is also one thing that, thankfully, and this is probably why I'm also still playing, is because I value this. But at first, when I started as a professional, possession from the goalkeeper, not giving up the ball, play free men, and finding the pockets and everything wasn't valued. You just get the ball as far out as possible. And I was always frustrated. I remember when I was 18, my coach, the professional coach at the time, told me, hey, stop being so pretentious, so cocky, calling out names. I would say, hey, Matt, boom, play him the ball. Hey, Matt, playing the ball. And it's like,
Yeah.
get the ball. And so this shift in the goalkeeper's responsibility benefited me because this is how I saw the game. But as you said initially, comparison is the thief of joy. If you keep comparing yourself to the other goalkeeper or to the young or the teammate that is your age, because there's always someone you compare to. And if you're the man at your club, then you're going to compare with other guys in other clubs. And if you're a national team player, then you're going to compare to the guys in the net, and then you want to be the captain. And then so there's always a good reason. And then it's wages, salary, and then it's contract length, and then it's the amount of times you're on the social media of the club, and it's never ending.
Yeah.
That's why when I heard this, comparison is the thief of joy, that's also one thing that stuck to me. Mind your own business. Do you, and next thing you know, everything falls into place. And then there's moments it's like, enjoy them, but know they're going to go away also. And don't be stuck in, I did this for that club 4 years ago, I should be having this treatment. Friend, you're only as good as your last game. So this is also very easy for me, coming from my 37 years old, 20 years as a pro, but it helps a lot. And I will scream it and tell it as much as possible to everybody who's willing to listen, because I have never seen someone last in the game and be ego driven. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see.
Even Zlatan, that takes a piss at reporters and everyone communicating like he does, he knows. He's focused on himself. You know what I'm saying? And he's not comparing to Giroud or Cavani or whoever he was playing with at the time. He's focused on himself 100%.
Yeah, for sure. And as you're telling this, I also take learning from what you're saying, because I'm in a bit of a similar situation at the moment. That right now, before the season starts, like, we brought in Marco Ilic on loan from Colorado Rapids.
Yeah.
And I think it's when you're expecting something, you can be disappointed and maybe a bit pissed off when it happens. But at the end of the day, as well, you have to look yourself in the mirror. And I have to look myself in the mirror. What happened last season? Well, I had a meniscus injury. I had a couple of muscle injuries. I wasn't available as much as I wanted to. Didn't play at my level that I know I can. So, okay, then maybe the club will take measures, because the only thing that matters in this business is results. It's results driven, and history doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's week by week. If you can't provide the club, your coaching staff, supporters with the goods on a weekend, then it's harsh, but then you're not worth anything, because that's really, really like the pinnacle of this game. So me as well, like, I allowed myself to be disappointed for a day, the bitching and moaning about it a little bit to my family and stuff like that. But then it's back to fighting, get that fighting spirit back, the mentality, control what you can control in your work on a day-to-day basis. Because at the end of the day, the coach in any club will play the best goalkeeper, because he wants results. He wants to keep his job. So it's really that simple,
It is that simple, and it hurts. Believe me, I've lived this situation quite a bit, and I've been the guy we've brought in and that ended up playing, and I've been the guy that discovers or is surprised by the signing of a goalkeeper, or signs a new contract, and next thing you know, the depth chart is 1, 2, 3, and you're not 1, you're not 2. It's like, okay, but then it's as I said, comparison is the thief of joy. You know your environment, you know, and in the end, when that moment will come, because it will come where you need to step on the field, everything you did before matters. How well you're prepared, how you went about yourself, because your teammates, they're not crazy. If you're bitching and moaning all day every day to your teammates, and the moment comes and you're like, let's go boys, hey, do this, do this, do that, it's like, bro, you've like killed every session for the past 3 months because you were mad, and now you want us to fight for you. I will fight for myself, and if it happens to work, good. Whereas if it's a guy, hey bro, you've never let us down, you've always been there, I know it's been difficult, and we're going to help you even more. And it's not against the other keeper, it's towards your mindset. You know what I'm saying? And this is elevating the level of grace around you. And this is one thing that is not instilled in our business and in our ego-driven society. That, listen, man, make the environment better. Be excellent at being number 2 or excellent at being number 3, you know? And then what happens? Well, if you don't play a single minute, you're still a fantastic teammate and you haven't wasted your time being blessed to be able to be a professional goalkeeper. If not, if you do end up happening, if you do end up playing, for sure good things are going to happen. And if it's not now for this club, it's for the next club. You know what I'm saying? It's almost I've been in a lot of teams that were fighting for promotions, whether it was in third or second division in France. I was lucky enough to experience 4 promotions. And there was always the same balance. There were the guys that hadn't played a whole lot, and so didn't really feel like they were part of the adventure of the team being promoted, for instance, to first division. And these guys, they were always ending up leaving the club. But they were leaving the club on a better contract for a second division team that were going to use their experience of being promoted, even though they were going to play only 10 games, as starters and as key players. And so if you did well for that club and if you meant well, you're going to have the tools to bring to another club that counts on you, that invested in you. And the next thing you know, a lot of guys that are in this role help clubs being promoted. And so they end up playing in first division a year or 2 later, getting the money they're willing to get, because it's also this. We all want, this is the kind of reward also. And they were able to fructify all the thing they have learned. God willing that they were on the same boat all that time. If, as you said, they're moaning, they're always complaining, nothing comes, nothing goes right. You can fool a team and you can fool players and a coach for 5-10 games, but you can't for a career. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
You can't be a bad character for too long. It's impossible.
Yeah, for sure. And they also preached that in Union when I was in Belgium, because I was a part of the promotion there that year. I was a part of the promotion team for half of that season. But they were also preaching, because there was many, of course, characters that was egotistical and thinking about themselves. But the coach and the sports director, they were always talking about, if we were to go up and do really, really well, if you will not play a lot here this season, your value will go along with the value of the team. It's that easy. So your next contract, even if it's in Belgium or in another country, in another league, it will benefit you if the team does well, if we promote, and you have that experience in your backpack. Because there will be other teams that will value that for their goals that maybe Union have surpassed, but they will bring you because you have been part of something huge and something big. So I think that's really, really important for people to, and players to understand, that if you are a part of a group and you put a lot of positivity and you put a lot of energy in that group succeeding, also your value, even though you might not be as much on the pitch as you would want, your value goes up for sure. So I think that's, try not, I know it's difficult when you're 19, 20 to not think about just the moment, but if you have a broader perspective and think maybe not just for this isolated season, but think for a season or 2 ahead, then I think you will be also more at ease in your own mind, because you will work, enjoy it more. You will not be so eager that you have to have it now, but it's more of a process and more focusing on your growth as a player.
That's 100% true. And also look at elder or the veteran players on teams, none of them are still bitching and moaning. None of them are the bad characters usually. They've survived so much that they know they had to shift into the very selfish young player into a listen, how are you going to survive in an industry that is more data driven? So now it's high intensity runs. It's like kilometers ran through a game. All these stats. How do you want to survive as your shape and your condition is going down? If you don't bring that leadership, if you don't bring that character, you're you're gone in no time. So it's whether you realize it early and you can work towards a long career and towards, okay, listen, if I can play full seasons, that's great. But maybe when I come when the 30s come and comes hitting and I'm 32 and I'm a holding midfielder and I can't run 12K every game, then maybe my leadership and my aura and what I bring to this team is so valuable that I will only start maybe 25 games, but it will be the 25 important games. And then there will be a cycle that I will be rotated and that I will be the captain and I will be able to set the values for a club and give a direction that is more important than the guy that, because I've played with so many guys that were expert in one level. What I mean by that is I was in clubs where guys would literally in every sentence say, "Hey, you know what? I've played 250 games in League Two in second division in France," or "Hey, I've played almost 200 games in MLS." And then you look, you scratch a little bit and say, "Never won anything, never got promoted." Okay, so every year you tick a box. 30 games started, fantastic. But what value do you bring, except the fact that you play in a position where you play every game? You don't live the joy of a promotion. You don't live the joy of like winning playoff games or winning cups or everything. So what do you bring except basically a resume saying you play week in, week out? Because this is the thing. After it's like, okay, you can tick a few boxes, say, okay, I run 10K every games. Yeah, every season I start 28 games and I have 5 assists and 5 goals every season. And cool. But is your resume aligned to stats, or what moments that actually mattered did you share with teammates? How impactful were you for a few clubs? Because there are clubs, as you said, me, it was maybe for my character in Sandefjord, unfortunately. And the year I was there, they made it I started the run in the cup and they went to the final and lost to Rosenborg in 2015. But even this, it's a little challenge with the team. You don't remember how well who played, you remember that adventure.
Yeah.
But if every year you're 10th or 12th in the table, and yes, you start every single game, but you do 15 years of 10 or 12th, and fantastic, man. I hope you banked a lot of money. I hope you know your resume by heart, and by heart, I mean all stats. But then what what special happened to you in your career? What did you share with your teammate that was just something that you will never forget and gives you goosebumps when you see him every 3 years? You know what I'm saying? This is
Yeah.
also the purpose and what you work towards to, because there's so many guys that hide into the, hey, I'm a starter for my club. Cool, man. But your club will exist and you will stop soccer and people will forget you. As I said,
Yeah.
how I started.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen world champions being overlooked a year after they stopped their career. It's Les Matuidi. We were in the academy together in Clairefontaine and in Troyes, and he had the fantastic career that he had. And if there is one deserving guy, it's him. But then he finished in the MLS, like me. And it's
Yeah.
almost like, since it didn't really go too well for his club, for his team, for everything, the environment was not a good environment for his qualities as a soccer player. He had to retire there. And then you have little Americans that have 100 games in MLS, never experienced a single national team camp or anything. And they say, Matuidi is shit. And I'm like, okay, that's the world we live in. You have a guy that has seen him in the wrong environment towards the end of his career tell you that this guy is shit, when really I see him as winning maybe 10 leagues in a row, 7 with Paris and 3 with Juve. The guy has walked in locker rooms. He carried a World Cup. And I have a college kid that has been in MLS for 3 years tell me Blaise Matuidi is shit. And this brings a lot of perspective, both on
Yeah.
who you play with, on how people see the game in some ways, and on how ungrateful this industry can be. if you're not sure of who you are, if character and personal growth is not the most important thing for you.
Yeah, I could not agree more. But the values, you strike me also. I've been following your career as well, and you strike me with a person that you have strong values, and like now when you're talking, you have a lot of knowledge. You're really like reflective. Is is there something you've done actively to come to the mindset and the position you are in today? Is there something you've studied? Have you listened to any podcast? Has it just been maybe discussions with your family, or just sitting on your own and just reflecting on stuff that's happened in your life and in your like professional career?
All of the above, man. All of the above.
Yeah.
So from a very, very young age, I would walk into a locker room or be in an environment where I would look at people and see, okay, who's the inspiring veteran presence, because I grew up in an environment where you put your coach, your teacher on a pedestal. They have the knowledge, they have the authority, they have the truth. And then in time, I've been disappointed with a few demeanors from coaches, not really tactical, it's just behaviors. And then all of a sudden I realized, okay, for the first 10 years of my youth and then first professional years, I was blessed with fantastic coaches. And then when I started experiencing guys that I thought myself, I'm not saying in general, were lesser persons, first and foremost, and then not as interesting and not as good as teachers I was expecting them to be, I said, okay, drop that pedestal position and now see who's inspiring and see who's not. Sometimes an 18-year-old is going to be more inspiring than a 50-year-old. You know what I'm saying? You have
Yeah.
So it's different backgrounds. And then from that moment on, I was lucky to be very, very curious and be inspired by veteran players. And so I was lucky to have like a couple bigger brothers that kind of guided me into my career and comforted me in saying, hey, listen, there's room for a guy like you. You don't have to be all ego, all competition. It's like soft skills, really, over hard skills, right? And then as it grew, and I was lucky to be in an environment where now the environment that there's so much to our reach, right? Videos, books, podcasts. And so these past 5-10 years, I've been reading so much on self-development, listening to so many podcasts, and being in so many conversations. I have my podcast myself. This is when you literally offered me to come on yours 2-3 days ago, and I said, let's make it happen because I followed you and I know your purpose. Your purpose is to share, and it's also to document. It's like, guys, my situation right now is not necessarily comfortable, but I'm not going to give up. I'm loving what I do. I love my struggle. I love hard times. And this, when you become a father, and we're both fathers, it's so important what you transpire to your kids, because your kids, they listen to you, but they look at you more.
Yeah,
They
for
look
sure.
at how you behave. They look at how you go about yourself with people, with this, with that. And so all this, wanting to be a 360-degree man, as we said, I want to be a husband, I want to be a father, I want to be an athlete, I want to be a son, I want to be a brother, I want to be a friend. And this is also realizing that everything that happens to you is not always for you, but is how you take the experience. And for me, the most important in all of that is not being shy of getting inspired by people. It's like sometimes, hey, I love how you go about yourself, or I love what you do, or I love what you say. I remember when I was 24 years old, I was playing for Evian. It was the most important game of the year. We were fighting for promotion and we were playing in Reims, right? And if we won that game, we were promoted. So high stakes. And I was playing, and I was 24 at the time, very young, in terms of goalkeeping and everything. And in front of me, it was Aldo Angula and Claudio Caçapa, Brazilian international, had played for Lyon 7 years, was part of that team that won 7 titles in a row. And he basically came for 6 months to help us out in second division, get us promoted to first, and left in the end. And so there's a bouncy ball. He tries to head it back to me. And me being myself, I was pretty high. But he misses his head. Striker takes it in between both of us, scores. The easy shortcut would be Caçapa is right, Westberg is wrong, right? It's like, hey, he's veteran. Even if he messes up the pass, the narrative could be, why is he so high, this, that. Came in the locker room at halftime, said, guys, the goal is for me. I will not give up. I will not let go. So, guys, I'm responsible if we lose tonight. But I'll tell you one thing, I will not let a single one of the guys on the field today give up until the 90th minute. Next thing you know, we won 2-1. Perfect story. We're promoted. But me, what stays with me is this guy. He was responsible for the goal more than me, but he could have easily said, "Hey, kid, what are you doing?" He said, "No, it's me, me, me." Protected me, took the blame away, the unconscious, from everyone from me, and we ended up getting promoted. This guy inspired me, man. And it's details along the way. It's moments. It's sometimes some guy speaking up, or you see a guy every day in the gym, or a guy tell you something that resonates with you, and it's okay. As you said earlier, put it in the backpack. This is my identity. This is who I am. This is how I want to come across as a husband, as a father, as a friend. And then everything becomes more simple because everything you do is not random. You're put in a situation where you see Mario Ilic is signing for the club. If you haven't lived everything that you've lived, and if you haven't done everything with a purpose like you have, you could give a big kick in the door of the sporting director's door and say, "What the fuck is happening? What are you guys doing? You're not respecting me. I did this and that for the club." But no, everything that you've learned and you've acquired and you've inspired yourself from before allows you to be okay. Maybe last year I wasn't the best version of myself. I understand the industry we're in. Listen, man, I'm going to handle this problem differently. And good things are going to happen, whether it's in Sandefjord, whether it's in soccer, whether it's in life. Good things are going to happen because it's not all about you in the end. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
understanding that takes away a lot of pressure. And I say this easily because if you come see my day to day, I'm I'm the hardest working out there, and not the hardest working saying, "Hey, I'm here the earliest." No, I do things with a purpose. I'm 37 years old, and I feel better than I did when I was 22. And I'm not saying this with the perspective of a next contract. I've been signing 1 year deals for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm super comfortable in that situation because it's uncomfortable. But being a professional athlete or trying to have one of these jobs with responsibility is not meant to be comfortable. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. But so then you think, like, if you would give like an advice to like the younger generation now that's coming up, that's like it's inevitable that you will start, like, once you have an iPhone or Samsung, like a smartphone, like you have the whole world in your hands. So, and I get a lot of messages in my DMs, especially on Instagram, whether it's young boys and young girls struggling, especially with the mental side of goalkeeping, almost losing the enjoyment of the position, enjoyment of playing football, from when they are 11, 12 years old. So let's, like, to avoid that happening, what advice would you give to the younger generation now coming up and climbing through the ranks?
I could only tell you the one thing that has worked for me. When this guy told me, "You're the devil of Tasman," it was a revelation. Focus on you. You know what I'm saying? Because yes, we have smartphones. Yes, when the social media from your club or tags you on a picture, you see all the comments and this and that. And you can be overwhelmed with people behind their screens. You know what I'm saying? When really you shut out of this, or if you're really impacted, if it's like negative to you, stay away from it. Play that game. Post pictures if you think it's important, this, that. Work on your brand, no problem. I understand that aspect of social media. But if reading bad comments hurts you, just don't look at them. It's that easy. Don't be sadomasochistic, like, just don't read them because it's not going to help if you bring them afterwards with you to dinner, to practice, to the gym. If one bad comment is going to stay with you more than 15 good ones, then just don't read them. And one thing that has worked for me is, like, when I first signed for Toronto, there was this moment where I thought I was illegitimate. I don't know why. Don't tell me why. But I never read a single comment on Twitter, and they would post whether good or bad. And I started my spell in Toronto with maybe winning 2 games out of 10 starts, and so it wasn't. But same thing, the coach really knew and saw what I could bring for the team and everything. And that way I was focusing on that and not maybe oh yeah, he's taking over the job. Who knows why, this, that, I don't understand. When really the coach knew that your leadership, playing out of the back, you covering grounds was what the team needed at the time. Fast forward 6 months, we almost won MLS. We went to the final, unbelievable run in the playoffs, the birth of a fantastic group that kept on going in 2020. So everything that a coach had seen was materialized. But on social media, it materialized the last month. You know what I'm saying?
I see.
So
Yes.
had I read social media for 6 months, I would have, damn, what am I doing? We don't know what he's, maybe, because I still didn't read them. But I didn't read, and I allowed myself to read the comments once the season was over, because I was so certain that it went so well that it's almost like, okay, let's get back to what they said at that moment. I didn't go back to the first games, but hey, that game I was bad. Let's see what they said. Oh, wow. And so maybe in the instant, I wouldn't have focused on the confidence the coach has in me for playing me every single game. I would focus on this Joe Blow on Twitter, mad at me, or maybe he's the cousin of the goalkeeper that's not who knows, or he's just someone that doesn't like you, or someone that has a problem with, no problem, everyone has a right. But if it affects you, stay away from it and focus on what matters. The confidence the coach has in you, maybe the leadership that your teammates need from you. And the leadership, you can be a leader when you're 20. I mean, I see fantastic kids being just great personalities, just being themselves. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you can be a leader already caring about yourself alone, but just showing up every day and being super consistent, not just, okay, we won this week, I'm up there, we lost, I'm down there. There's no age for being a pain in the ass. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
These are like that. It's like when we win, it's all about them. When we lose, it's all about the others. And I think you can be a great leader by being just a consistent guy in your personality. And then what you bring to the table, what you bring on the field, shines even more when you do have this personality. Yes, the guy in the stands doesn't necessarily see that, but who are you doing it for? For the sake of your team or for the fans? And this is same thing. If you're nourished by everything that's going on outside, then it brings more pressure on you because you want to please so many more people. Whereas if you focus on what really matters, walking in those doors, the security officer or the cooks or how did they go, how did they greet me? This is already more me. This is something that's going to affect me. I like consistent people, and I like to show respect and consistency. When I have someone saying hello in different way when we lose or when we win, I'm not going to hold a grudge, but I'm going to start putting that person in a category where, oh, you're too emotion driven, man. And even what you reflect on the team from working for the team, but around the team is negative, right? And so it's definitely a thing I could say, hey, listen, man, I've noticed when we lose, you're down. No, we're one team, we're one family. So this is the thing I do now, but this is at another level. I'm 38, or 37. It's much more easier for me to do so. But for a young lad, for a young goalkeeper, whatever the position, once you step on that field, remember why you're there. And it can be stupid, but if just because you like to dress up as a goalkeeper, you like your style, feel comfortable, short sleeves, nice tape, just like white side. If this is what gets you going, this is what you love about the position, then do this. If what you love about the position is distribution, is playing out of the back and everything, do that. Find comfort in that. And if you need to feel that when you warm up, just do distribution. You'll be warm. Don't worry. You'll be ready to dive also. You know what I'm saying? Just do what you love. Remember what you love about the thing. And if in the end you don't love the playing, you don't love the team chemistry, you don't love the training, and all you like is the attention on social media and the money in contracts, then maybe you're not made for the job, or maybe there's an end date and it's closer than you probably expect. Because if you do something for the wrong reasons, these wrong reasons catch you, and earlier than the good ones. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Makes sense?
Yeah, for sure. It makes total sense. But so let's say your first spell at Toronto for the first 10 games. So like a huge thing around goalkeeping is losing your self-belief and your self-efficacy, like how you, just how you play, and how like losing your confidence like is a huge thing, and how to regain that, how to regain that. So how, in terms of, you probably touched on it as about the stuff that you spoke about now, but how do you self-manage yourself during maybe a bit like through adversity, and like regaining that, not say shaky confidence, but there will be times in your career where you're feeling great and the goal is super small, but then there will also be times during your career
Whatever
where
you
the
do, you get
whatever
scored.
you do, the ball hits in, So
Hey, listen,
how have you like self-managed your way through adversity and losing self-belief and self-efficacy?
that's the hardest, man. Honestly, that's the hardest because, as you said, as goalkeepers, there are moments where you feel whatever you do, someone will find a way for a fuck up to happen.
Yeah.
And that someone is a lot of the time yourself,
Yeah.
because you're overthinking, and it's almost like your overthinking is contagious. It's almost like everyone's looking, and or that's how you feel, right?
Yeah.
And so what has worked for me is being grateful to be in that situation, being grateful for a difficult moment, because okay, you're going through a difficult spell, right? But if you're going through a difficult spell still playing, it's not as difficult as if you were going through a difficult spell on the bench. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
from the bench, we all know training is not going to build your confidence up, because at the end of the day, the weekend is what matters.
Yeah.
So if you are playing, it's almost going back, as we just said earlier, for young or not so young goalkeepers. It's what makes you happy in being a goalkeeper. You know what I'm saying? And as I
Yeah.
said, sometimes is that stupid as looking good. Feeling good in your loving your gloves, loving, oh, I love the playing with white shoes, or whatever. This small
Yeah.
trigger that gets you back to, okay, when I was 12 years old, I loved being a goalkeeper because we could put tape around, the shin guards, and it looks so nice. And when I had these white gloves on, I could see my hands. I felt like, and the first time I cut my sleeves, I felt like Fabian Barthez. So this is what keeps me going. Who knows? Who knows these stupid little triggers, or it's just walking onto a field and feeling like you're cheered for. It can be your ego also a little bit, or it's playing in front of my family, or knowing that I'm on TV, or knowing that, I don't know, so many girls are looking at me, and they could, I could get DMs. Who knows? There's
Yeah.
probably a stupid reason why you love to be in the spotlight, and why you love to take on the responsibility that is being a goalkeeper for a team, not a professional team, a team. I see in amateur, I see kids not wanting to go in goal because it's too much pressure. And a 9v9, a 10-year-old on tier 4 of a random club. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like
for sure.
everyone is going to feel that pressure sooner or later if you're in goal. So turn it the other way around. Why do you love that pressure? And it's almost like, okay, this one thing. And then sometimes it's like, when it's not going well, you tend to overcomplicate things. Oh, 2 years ago when it was going well, I would eat pasta and green beans and beef. I'm going to get back to this meal.
Yeah.
Stop the superstitions. It's like, really get back to the basic element. What do you love in what you do? And just be grateful for going through a difficult situation, but being put in a situation where you still have the keys to turn it around, over being in a situation where, hey, maybe I'm going to need to wait a year and a half before my next game. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's almost that moment where, okay, the butterflies comes before, but once you're on the field, then we're all different. Maybe it's easy for me to say, because me, as soon as the whistle blows, it's one game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm playing in front of 50,000 or 3,000. I don't remember being more anxious at Sandefjord Stadium in front of 5,000 people, or at Atlanta Mercedes-Benz in front of 65. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still the same game, and I had the same adrenaline. Not more, not less, not more pressure. I could still not really hear my teammates all that much, or you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
then the environment, but that's for me, right? I don't know if guys, maybe you can tell us more. Maybe if when there's more crowd, if you feel like there's more pressure. I don't. I think that when there's a game, it's the same. There's the same stake. You want to do well, you want to contribute, you want to be the best version of yourself. But okay, there's all these things you want to be. But in a moment where you're not feeling as good, maybe don't be as much of a leader. Maybe don't try and be the man necessarily. Just
Yeah.
be a guy that keeps us in the game, that guy that does well what he does, and be pretty simple about what you do. It's like taking away all this stuff because, and us as goalkeepers, sometimes if you're giving that opportunity, the big mistake is trying to do too much. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
I want to do this better than the other guy. I want to do this for the team. I want to bring that much of confidence, and I want to show that I can be the man right away. Make sure everyone on the team does well,
Yeah.
like you
Just
bring proper
tone it down a bit.
exactly, and give
Yeah.
yourself 10, 15 games, whether you get, but when you're already projecting, oh, I have this opportunity, I need a new contract. So this game, no, take that game from 8 to 10, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. This is the 2 hours that matter when the game is happening. What happens before, what happens after is like, it's blank, nothing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it's narrowing it down to the simple things. Defend your goal,
Yeah.
defend space if you feel it's really important. Play out of the back if the first 2 or 3 options are really on. Don't try and overcomplicate it. Don't try and be the one guy right away. All these things that help and that you will become naturally once your confidence is back. Your confidence is back.
Yeah. Great conversation, Quentin. And so, like there's so many asking me. I have a community, and also on social media, they are so obsessed about how many times, like they are 12, 13, 14, how many times a week should I do gym? How many times, how many sets, how many reps, How often did you do goalkeeper training when you were 13? Should I do ice plunge when I'm 12? Should I do sauna? They are, it's
Cryo,
because
cryo, cryo.
cryo, like
You're
everything.
signing for Real Madrid, man.
So like they are, of course, I love that they want to do all the means necessary to chase their dream and be the best goalkeeper they can be. But I think maybe they have gotten the focus a little bit wrong. Like
The wrong perspective. I agree.
I think they have the wrong perspective, because I think it's, I'm not sure how to put it, but I think they have to learn to, I think building yourself up as a person and as a character is even more important than all of that stuff,
Bring your sister to gymnastics and spend time with her. So to get back to cryo, to cold plunge, to the gym. Okay, there's different levels, but cryo, cold plunge, all these things are like the small percentage.
Yeah.
Seeing a therapist on the side, it's everything. Listen, focus on your football. Me as a goalkeeper, I don't know how you grew up. I grew up. I discovered goalkeeper training, and I was so lucky that the tiny club that I was playing for, the first team coach was a Polish second division, a Polish goalkeeper that had retired, moved to France, and was now a first team coach, but in French 10th division. When I say amateur, it's no lights, no nothing, and we're not talking even remotely close to professional level. But he was a next second division goalkeeper in Poland. And so he was a goalkeeper, and he liked to run like goalkeeper sessions once a week for his goalkeeper. So I discovered goalkeeper training at the age of 10 or 11 once a week. And I was training I was the youngest, with guys that were 11, 12, 15, 17, and a couple of, adult senior goalkeepers that were playing for him. So it was like a lot of everything. But I was so grateful at the time to have a guy that would like strike volleys and give me tips. And plus he had that Eastern accent. So I felt like I was with a magician, I was with a wizard, and it's more the perspective that I put into it. But what made me a better goalkeeper is that I was playing every recess. I was playing football, every recess. At any time I could play, I was playing, but not as a goalkeeper on the field. when I went to Clairefontaine, we were 3 goalkeepers, and literally my life changed when I was 13. I was
Yeah.
playing for that tiny club with that goalkeeper coach that would train me once a week, but he loved me. So I wanted to come. And even though the bigger boys bullied me with their shots, felt like they were rockets at the time, but I was loving getting dirty over working on my technique. And within 6 months, I tried out where PSG wanted me to join their academy, and my coach signed me up for Clairefontaine, saying, if PSG wants you, maybe you should try Clairefontaine. Next thing you know, I get to pick between Clairefontaine and PSG. All of a sudden, I'm like this elite player coming out of nowhere. Why? Because I loved the game. And
Yeah.
so I was put in Clairefontaine. In Clairefontaine, mind you, one of the biggest academies, the most famous,
Yeah.
that has produced the most players. And we were
Yeah.
3 goalkeepers. And even at the time, there was a goalkeeper trainer, but we were 3 generations. So he wasn't always like a goalkeeper trainer now who was like with the team and always like the one that's not playing, he's working on the side. We were 3 goalkeepers, and that helped us so much. The one goalkeeper that was not in goal when there was like small games, he was right mid. He was making numbers as a field player, running, And so that helped us a whole lot. Why? Because when you're in goal and you're not physically tired and you say, go, intensity, don't give
Yeah.
up. Like when you're on the field, you know how it feels to be like out of breath or missing a simple pass because your legs feel like poles. You know what I'm saying? You feel like it's
Yeah.
concrete. And so once you get all these feelings, you kind of like, okay, I know it's hard. Please don't let go over the, come on, don't be a pussy. Work. No,
Yeah.
exhausted. And if you haven't been there to experience it, then this is going to help as much as taking 100 volleys it's not basketball. It's not small or games with phases. Soccer is fluid. You can work as much as you want in goalkeeper training. There will be that one situation in game that you have never worked on, and
Yeah.
you're going to still need to be ready for it. So you need to be adaptable. And how do you become adaptable? Play other sports. But if all you do is bench press and volleys, you're going to be good at bench press and volleys.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's like a deflected shot that goes in the air. You need to find yourself in space and actually go and not know if it's your center back or the striker, and then catch the ball high when it's really dropping down like this. This you can't really work on. So what do? You go back to everything that you do. You're a good little athlete. Maybe tennis is going to help you with that. Maybe basketball, maybe competing in any kind of ways. But I would argue that doing everything but football or but goalkeeping, no, but goalkeeping, not football. When you're a goalkeeper, is the
Yeah.
best thing you can do. Soccer,
Yeah.
tennis, work on your touches like this, be a, +1 in possession, stuff like that. I think this helps more than actually diving, pushing, because we can all look good on camera or in training. Hey, coach, put the ball in the right upper 90, please. And you
Yeah.
go, boom, I look so good.
Yeah.
But in the game, who tells you, hey, I'm going to put it up there? Okay, you go. Okay. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. So I would advise, and I'm going through it a little bit with my kids. They're given the opportunity to train almost every night. Sometimes I pull them out of practice and say, hey, on Wednesdays, we do not go. It's family dinner, family night. Spend time with your younger sisters. We spend time as a family. We do stuff. Hey, we play hide and seek or tag or something. It's just do something else. Sometimes disconnected is the best training you can do
Yeah.
over, okay, I understand the grind, but if you already practice 3-4 times a week, play a game on the weekend, find time for something else. And if you want to keep an activity, yes, do. Me, I'm all about the gym. I believe in activation and preservation. I do core every day, core push-ups every day, but not to an extent where I want to be bulky, to an
No.
extent that I can keep my speed, because I believe that my reflex, but it's working on my profile of goalkeeping. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
not trying to bulk up and saying, okay, I see they do this in American football. I'm going to do this because it looks good. And on this
Yeah.
Instagram video, I saw it was great. No, inspire yourself. Like we said earlier, you can
Yeah.
inspire yourself also for that. Take what you want to take in the gym. There are stuff that you like to do and there's stuff you don't like to do.
Yeah.
Maybe give it a shot, but once you know it doesn't really work for you after a year or after 6 months, put it aside and try something else. Instead of being heavy weights, let it be dynamic. Instead of being just reps, with legs, maybe do quads and then a few jumps to kind of
Yeah.
transfer it right away, because this
Yeah.
is what I feel benefits me. You know what I'm saying? But it's,
Yes.
as we all said, and it comes down to the same thing: be purposeful about what you do, and
Yeah.
not just, okay, hey, I'm working so hard. Yeah, man, you're taking 100 volleys a day, but how many times in a game you have an easy ball here to your
Yeah.
hand? 5 times a year.
Yeah.
But it's also the opposite is correct. Sometimes, to my mind, and this is what frustrates me a lot, is like, let's do finishing. Okay, they do the D game, or just like pass, guy sets you up. It's almost
Yeah.
like a penalty every time.
Yeah.
You guys are not working on anything, and us as goalkeepers, we're working on almost anticipating the shot from a guy we've worked so much with that we know 9 times out of 10 he opens his foot and you dive the right way, and he feels bad, I feel good, so next time he fucks you and he goes the other way. It's not really purposeful. It's almost like
No.
taking this. Okay, it's almost like saying, I'm going to send the ball there, jump, feel good about yourself. No,
Yeah.
try and find the more purposeful approaches that will actually help you in a game. And sometimes playing a tennis game is going to help you more than doing 100 volleys or just doing bench press, feeling that, oh, I got nice arms. It looks good with my tattoo, in my short
Yeah.
sleeve. In the end, I'm not sure it makes you a better goalkeeper.
No, I agree. And also I think from a young age, I think nowadays they also like they are exposed to so much information, and I think just don't forget about just making it plain and simple. Instead of sitting at home on your iPad or playing Call of Duty or something, call your friend, take 4 or 5 balls to the pitch, and just let your friends hit balls at you. You learn how to, like, different balls will come. You will learn how to move around the goal, how to dive, how to fall down without getting hurt, and you will be exposed to so many shots that it's inevitable that you will not like develop. So just keep it simple. Play with your boys. Play small-sided games with your friends,
Pick up,
and pick up, and just and enjoy the game. Don't be so obsessed about you have to be in an academy when you're 12. You have to have a pro contract when you're 15. Like that's the outliers. That's not the norm. So,
I'll
yeah,
gladly tell you this, coming from the pinnacle of football academies. Clairefontaine is really like, it's a huge deal. But then after transferring to professional clubs and everything, so many times I left my home when I was 13 to go in this academy. So I only came back on the weekends at first, and then never, and then went to a pro club still in the academy. And then I got in the academy. I was 16 in these pro clubs, and okay, I had that pedigree from Clairefontaine. I learned so much, and but from the 24 guys in Clairefontaine, only we had an unbelievable age group. 12 made it as pros, but only 5 had a longer than 5 or 6 year career, right? So we had a lot of guys that signed the first contract but didn't follow through, right? Whatever. There's a lot of guys in the academies, in the professional academies that we went through, that were leaving their home for the first time, but they were fresher mentally than us. We had more codes of how to live in an environment with a lot of competitive kids, but they had more freshness to them. They had more like, okay, I'm 16, I'm more ready to leave my home than you were when you were 13, because I've been through more with my parents, with that environment. And sometimes the guys that lived in the cities where the academies or the clubs were from, they had more freshness, because in the evening they were going back to their parents, and they were not competing for ketchup or salt with another kid. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Because you eat at the cafeteria, and it's like, oh, there's cheese there, and I need the cheese on the pasta, and you took everything, and you're fighting for everything. Them, they're fighting, during the day, maybe in school, and competing. But when it's nighttime, they go back home and they get a more peaceful environment. And I feel these kids had a much, like, a head start on us, because they were able to disconnect. I was sleeping and I was waking up. I was seeing my striker. I was seeing my backup goalkeeper. I was seeing the goalkeeper that was 2 years older than me, and knowing I was coming, and trying to challenge him, and it was always competing, always competing. Sometimes it's knowing when, being purposeful once more. You come full focus for 2 hours, then 2, 3 times a week, whatever. Get someone that knows what he's doing to get you a nice little, gym setup or something. But if you're 12 years old, forget about the gym, my friend. Go outside, as you said, play pickup soccer, play, like 1, 2 touches, whatever, soccer, tennis, make something up, or just try and aim for your friend's head or something, or crossbar challenge, whatever. But something that will help you along the way, just by loving the game and working on small indifferent things that when you add them up, they keep you fresh
Yeah.
and they make you a better, they develop one skill.
Quentin, amazing. I will not take up too much more of your time. It was extremely good chat. For sure, I've learned something, and the listeners as well have for sure learned something. I think you're an extremely reflective guy, great goalkeeper, great guy with values. So this was also really inspiring for me, and I would the stuff that you said I would bring into my own life as well. So thank you very much for coming on. It was amazing.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for inspiring younger and older goalkeepers. I follow what you do just because we didn't really cross path, as you said, and maybe we can chat after, but give me a little commission on allowing you to sign for Sandefjord. Uh,
yeah, well,
but really, I mean, when you do when you do the things for the right reasons, it always pays off one way or the other, you know. And some
yeah,
people think it comes in the reward of lifting a World Cup, and sometimes the best reward is having a blissful marriage and having kids that just look up to you and that will actually listen when you speak to them because they've seen you say so many times or seen you not give up so many times that when they grow and you sit them down and you said, hey, you know, when I was so frustrated at that time. And I said, but that was the best moment of my life almost. I have so many good memories of that moment. He said, yes, because you
yeah,
deserve good memories. I can be frustrated at work, but you don't deserve to get the frustrated side of your father. You
yeah,
deserve. So all things considered, I follow it. You know, putting yourself out there and exposing yourself and exposing kids or older people to what you do is very brave because so many people are really judgmental from the get-go. So look at what he's doing. No, my friend,
yeah,
I think it's great to expose yourself to one criticism, but also share. You know, it's all
yeah,
about it. As I said, we will be remembered by our parents and our kids as goalkeepers, but people will remember how you made them feel. And when when you told me about what people still mentioning me in Salzburg, maybe it's not because I was Neuer or Buffon. It's because we had a good relationship. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? I didn't
yeah,
change the face of that club. I just brought a vibe that is very important to me, and I'm happy it worked because I got it in return, and it was authentic. It wasn't like I was putting on a mask every day. So that
no,
let me be a, this guy that everyone likes. No, it was just instant connection. And up to this day, I I think, and on May 17th, I will be doing Gratulerer med dagen. You
Cut-
know what?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm
Amazing,
part of the culture
amazing,
stays with me. You know.
yeah.
But thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to discuss with purposeful goalkeepers.
Thank you. The same, Quentin.